Good morning. Who is Nate Selden? A medical professional wanting to get a quick handle on that question would likely ask Nate for his CV. Here's a few highlights from the lengthy and impressive document they'd receive. Nate's academic record is extraordinary. He graduated from Stanford University with distinction and received that institution's commencement award for scholastic excellence and exceptional contributions to campus life. He was subsequently awarded a Marshall Scholarship and earned a doctorate in neuroscience at Cambridge. Upon graduation from Harvard Medical School, he won the John Thayer Scholarship for outstanding academic achievement. Professionally, Nate is a gifted basic scientist whose NIH-funded laboratory efforts have provided essential insights into mammalian neurobiology. He's a cutting-edge clinical researcher who, in 2006, performed the world's first human transplantation of purified neural stem cells. He's authored over 200 publications. He's lectured around the globe. Nate's extraordinary skills as a medical educator are well known, and his innovative methods of training young clinicians have earned him numerous accolades, including the prestigious National Courage to Teach Award. His seminal contributions to graduate and continuing medical education, including his leadership of the Neurosurgical Milestones Project, presently benefit all practicing neurosurgeons and all neurosurgery training programs nationally. Nate is also a talented clinician and administrator. Within a few months of joining the faculty at Oregon Health Sciences University, he was promoted to head of the Division of Pediatric Neurosurgery, and the following year he founded the Dornbecker Comprehensive Pediatric Brain Tumor Clinic. In less than a decade, his numerous achievements propelled him to full professorship with tenure, along with an appointment as the Companion Chair of Pediatric Neurosurgery. He has recently been selected to succeed his mentor, Kim Burchell, as Chair of Neurological Surgery at OHSU to begin January 1st, 2016. So that's Nate Selden by CV, Nate Selden 101, if you will. If you knew nothing else about Nate, you'd have to be impressed by this list, but you still wouldn't know the person. And Nate is a remarkable person, in large part because he's been influenced by other remarkable people. I'd like to introduce you to some of those individuals. Nate's father, Richard, was a brilliant and pioneering Harvard-educated cardiologist who became the youngest associate professor in the history of Oregon Medical School, now OHSU. Richard was an avid outdoorsman who shared with Nate his love for camping and other wilderness pursuits. In 1975, Richard died pursuing his passion when he was caught in a severe and unexpected storm while climbing Mount Hood. Nate was 10 at the time. Nate's mother, Pamela Webb, a Harvard-educated anthropologist, was left to pick up the pieces for a young family after Richard's tragic death. Nate and his sister Abigail would derive great strength and inspiration from their mother, who went on to graduate from the Oregon School of Design and became a distinguished architect, winning numerous awards for design and community service. Pamela would later marry Nate's stepfather, Jay Margulies, a professor of English who trained at Berkeley. Nate and Abigail's maternal grandfather, Hamilton Brookholding Webb, an Air Force Medical Corps officer and family patriarch, were important influences throughout Nate's academic and early professional career. Nate had several remarkable influences outside of his immediate family as well. He studied healthcare policy as an intern with Senator Baucus during his Exeter years. At Stanford, his advisors included future Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and Dr. Bill Durham, a renowned biological anthropologist and MacArthur Genius Fellow. His PhD supervisor was Dr. Trevor Robbins, one of the world's foremost neurobiologists, and to whom you were introduced yesterday. His postdoctoral fellowship was supervised by the eminent behavioral neurologist and neuroscientist, Dr. Marcel Mejlem. Nate continued to be influenced by extraordinary people during his neurosurgical training. At the University of Michigan, he was guided by three giants of our specialty: Buzz Hoff, Bill Chandler, and John McGillicuddy. While there, he met a remarkable pediatric neurosurgeon, Corinne Marasco, who encouraged him to pursue a pediatric fellowship under the direction of Dr. Dave McClone and Tad Tomita. Corinne has remained a longtime mentor. As a young attending at OHSU, Nate has had the good fortune to be mentored by another neurosurgical giant, Dr. Kim Burchell, longtime chairman of the neurosurgery department, and the 2015 honored guest of the Congress of Neurological Surgeons. By far, the greatest personal influence on Nate was, and continues to be, the former Karen Hodges, now Dr. Karen Selden, who met Nate on his first day of medical school. As any of Nate's friends will tell you, and this is a scary fact, Karen is the real brains of the family. That is, if we exclude the Selden children from that consideration, Ryan, Lauren, and Megan. Karen is a gifted plastic surgeon who is also a Stanford, Harvard, and University of Michigan trained physician. She's also a wise, thoughtful, and caring mother, and the rock upon which Nate leans daily. So these are the facts of Nate's life to date. Taken individually, they're incredible enough and perhaps explain many of his accomplishments. When viewed as a whole, they start to explain the man and why the themes of this meeting are so important to him. Nate is the product of rich educational, emotional, and social environments that shaped him and prepared him for greatness. From his family, his friends, and many extraordinary professional mentors, Nate has either learned or witnessed courage, persistence, faith, perspective, insight, balance, and patience. These influences, in combination with a God-given gift, what Osler called a good-natured equanimity, have made Nate who he is. And Nate is, first and foremost, a good person. He's unselfish, reliable, genuine, loyal. He can be funny or philosophical, a deep thinker who doesn't take himself too seriously. As a friend, he's engaged and interested in both good times and in bad. He's a devoted father and husband who enjoys skiing, rafting, and hiking with his family in the Oregon Cascades. He has an astounding range of intellectual and cultural interests, which include art, language, literature, and even music. And in the upper right-hand corner, he's about to rupture his spleen in a gig in medical school. What does Nate mean to our community? Many things. But in my mind, his life and actions primarily serve as a model for leadership and mentoring. As a teacher, he's ethical, honest, and consistent. This inspires trust in his message. As a project manager, he's the ultimate heavy lifter. No one on as many teams takes on more responsibility, and his actions convince others that the pursuits in question are important and worthwhile. As a medical leader, he's quick to share credit. This conveys the message that the emphasis should always be on the community and the common effort, not the leader. As an innovator, he's passionate about discovery and improvement, and he shares that enthusiasm with others. But most importantly, Nate, the person, shares and nurtures dreams. A comment made by a famous teacher from my neck of the woods in 1980 could easily be said by Nate today. If I can help you see what I see and dream what I'm dreaming, there's no limit to what we could accomplish together. Like other great leaders and mentors, Nate has the audacity to dream big and encourage others to do the same. He creates shared visions, and those visions define us, bind us together, and guide our path to the future. So who is Nate Selden? He's a man whose important work is redefining care, leadership, and education in the greatest field in medicine. He's someone who makes everyone around him better. He's the real deal. That's who my friend is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce the 65th President of the Congress of Neurological Surgeons, Dr. Nathan Selden.
Well, I'm speechless, Tony. That was absolutely fabulous. Fortunately, I do have a speech. Thanks, Tony, for those very kind words. It's terrific being introduced by the mentor who got me started in the Congress almost 14 years ago. Thanks, Tony, for your strong leadership and your special friendship. Now, no mentorship is more impactful or important than a parent of their child. I'm blessed by and tremendously proud of my 3 children, Ryan, Lauren, and Megan. You've watched me dedicate my time and also some of our time to the important task of educating young neurosurgeons and supporting our patients. I hope I've shown you to follow your passions and contribute to your own communities. Also here today is their principal mentor and the joy of my life, Dr. Karen Selden. She was a valedictorian of Letters and Science at Berkeley and a classmate of mine in medical school, as you saw. She's also my most important professional colleague. Thank you, sweetheart. Our family is definitely my highest calling and my greatest joy. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Congress of Neurological Surgeons, and honored guest, Jackie Robinson said it best: "A life isn't important except in the impact it has on other lives." Robinson had exceptional talent, extraordinary determination, and a deep reservoir of personal goodwill. He broke the color barrier in American professional sports, and he mentored a generation of talented young players, and he raised the hopes of millions more who dreamed of similar success. More than any other field in medicine, mentorship defines the specialty of neurological surgery, and it forms the core of our own professional identity. I'm a Hoff trainee. Buzz's homespun modesty, his personal warmth, and his powerful intellect stay with me as I make rounds in the hospital, or I stand at the scrub sink, or talk with the nurses in the break room. His mentorship appeared in simple, unplanned, but profound ways. On the first day of residency, Buzz spent 2 hours taking me through a lumbar disc. No joke. He used a skin marker to draw little diagrams of each step onto the drapes. Sometimes in the hallway after a conference, he'd ask, "Nate, what are you writing?" And he'd respond to the answer with very insightful questions and real encouragement. Once, after losing one of his favorite patients to their disease, Buzz put his hand on my shoulder and said quietly, "Well, Nate, we did our best." And when we could help a patient, Buzz's excitement and pride in our team were palpable. Watching Buzz, we learned how to be neurosurgeons. Now, our Oregon residents, many of whom are here in the room tonight, have never met Buzz, but I've shared enough Hoff anecdotes and aphorisms and surgical pearls that they feel they know him. And in a way, they do. Each of us carries this special bond with our chief, our favorite senior resident, or with a faculty mentor who took us under his wing and helped us make the transition from student to neurosurgeon. Now, the value of mentorship is clear, but its actual origins are obscure. The term mentor originated almost 3,000 years ago from actually a very minor character in the Odyssey. The ancient Greek king and warrior Odysseus left on his legendary journey, entrusting his household and his son, Telemachus, to a close friend and advisor, Mentor. Mentor's charge was to embody reason and wisdom, to protect the household, and to help raise Telemachus. Translated from the ancient Greek, mentor is literally a man who thinks. Now, our own foundational mentorship history in neurosurgery is just as powerful. Harvey Cushing left a larger imprint and mentored a more extensive school in neurosurgery than anyone else. Cushing's most famous and accomplished protege was Walter Dandy. In fact, Cushing's mentorship of Dandy is one of the most fascinating relationships in medicine. For example, when Dandy worked with Cushing in the Hunterian lab at Johns Hopkins, he invalidated some of Cushing's original findings on sympathectomy and glucose metabolism. Cushing's mentorship of Dandy was fractured and really never recovered. He soon left Johns Hopkins for Boston and left Dandy behind. Dandy emerged as a vigorous innovator, a daring and accomplished surgeon, and a powerful mentor in his own right. He pioneered ventricular endoscopy, contrast imaging, choroid plexus coagulation, and aneurysm clipping. At the same time, he maintained lifelong warm relationships with his friends and his trainees. He was also an engaged and compassionate family man. In short, Dandy is an outstanding role model for us all. It's therefore my honor and personal joy to recognize at this time a very special guest, Walter Dandy's daughter and biographer, Mary Ellen Marmaduke. Mary Ellen, I hope you know how much the Congress of Neurological Surgeons admires your father and the entire Dandy family and honors the Dandy legacy. Thank you. Now, in Walter Dandy's era, a mentor was paired literally with a surgical apprentice. Even 20 years ago, when I began training, most residents worked as serial apprentices with a new rotation and a new mentor about every 6 months. Sustained personal interaction with a single mentor was the core of most surgical education. In the last 20 years, however, the world has changed radically, threatening these personal ties between mentor and trainee. Subspecialty expertise has exploded. Technology is evolving at a breathtaking pace. Hospitals, healthcare systems, and insurers have created an RVU treadmill that demands ever-increasing efficiency, prolonged work hours, and almost inhuman focus on productivity. At the same time, the government has created a sea of regulations and electronic checkboxes that distract from our patients, take us away from our colleagues, and rob us of precious time. The traditional paradigm of mentor and protege is at risk. Is mentorship even relevant to surgical education today? The answer is a resounding yes. The data are clear. Mentorship is crucial to attract the best students to surgery. A specific surgical mentor influenced the career decision of most general surgery residents. Mentors are also the pivotal influence on choice of specialty and practice setting. And we know that expert performance develops only after years of deliberate practice under the guidance of a gifted mentor or coach. But most importantly, mentorship is the best way for us to promote our own values and define our own worth. It's also the only way to develop a shared vision of the future and help others realize their role in achieving it. In short, effective personal mentorship is more important than ever. Now, the most effective mentors are strong professional role models and recognized experts who also serve as leaders in their institutions. They dedicate time and effort to their mentorship role. They communicate well and set clear expectations. Most notably, they avoid seizing credit for mentored work. Effective mentorship involves as much listening as speaking, as much guidance as direction, and as much encouragement as persuasion. Now, sadly, our personal differences can interfere with good mentorship. Age, background, even gender can create serious barriers. But I know from personal experience this need not be the case. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon today because a tenacious and gifted faculty member, Dr. Corinne Marasco, inspired me to follow in her path. Utterly committed to pediatric neurosurgery, Corinne was a terrific mentor and role model. One Friday evening, 6 hours into a very difficult case, a pediatric resident came into our OR and showed us the MRI of a baby with a newly diagnosed brainstem tumor and severe hydrocephalus. Corinne looked up at the clock and quietly gave instructions to prepare the child for surgery. Then she nodded for me to continue and coached me as I finished the dissection for our current patient. I'll never forget Corinne's determination, resilience, and focus on our patients. As a mentor, she was demanding and required excellence. But she also set clear expectations, communicated directly when I fell short, and offered specific encouragement when I progressed. Now, the concept of women as mentors is far from new. Remember the man who thinks from the Odyssey? In the end, he failed. Thieves overran Odysseus' household, and suitors pursued his wife. Who finally saved the day? It was actually a woman who thinks. In the ancient story, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and of war, disguised herself as mentor, reestablished order, and served as the experienced and trusted advisor to Telemachus. A woman, Athena, is in fact the eponymous founder of mentorship. No doubt, the challenge, complexity, and lasting impact of neurosurgery on our patients demand uniformly high standards when we choose residents and when we train them. Put simply, not everyone can become a neurosurgeon. However, to paraphrase the Disney movie Ratatouille, a good neurosurgeon can come from anywhere. This is a lighthearted parable about a humble animal who becomes a world-class chef in Paris. But it reminds us of a common barrier to professional diversity, which is our own image of a mentor's and a protege's appearance, background, or gender. Several months ago, our new neurosurgery residents began work at OHSU. For the first time, we had a majority of women trainees. The 9 women in the program are also the largest number ever training at a single ACGME neurosurgery residency. Other program directors and department chairs have asked me, how do we do this? What can they do to get the same results? The answer is simple. We focused on matching the very best medical students. Women were a significant part of that focus. We created a welcoming environment for all candidates in our interview weekends, including women. We also instituted a generous family leave policy, equally supportive of both women and men starting families. Most importantly, we worked hard to actively mentor the female residents already in our program. The first women shared their experiences. New residents were drawn to an environment where everyone was treated the same. Women entering neurosurgery residency now match their proportion in the applicant pool. It's about 20%. But that proportion has stalled. We don't need compromises, and we don't need quotas. But underutilizing the talent present in half the population, especially for a specialty like ours, in need of the very best raw material for the future, just doesn't make sense. Neurosurgeons should actively mentor every medical student who's talented enough to join the next generation. But we know that students choose their mentors, not the other way around. The very best students will not approach us for mentorship if we're not exemplary role models. And they won't stay unless we respond to those priceless initial opportunities with openness, warmth, and attention. As the poet laureate Maya Angelou noted, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Life in neurosurgery is tough, and that poses real challenges to effective mentorship. What does our neurosurgical lifestyle look like to today's medical students? Are we positioned to inspire the next generation of neurosurgeons? We can and we must demonstrate unwavering dedication to our patients' welfare, and we should expect it of our trainees. But we should also organize our practices and our lives to serve as the best mentors possible at work, at home, and in our community. We should mindfully schedule small gaps into our busy routine. We should pause, reflect, and spend time with those around us. We should remember that email is there 24 hours a day, but our students, our younger colleagues, and our spouses are there for only part of it. And we should avoid the overwhelming temptation to focus on the technical and forget the human aspects of our jobs and of our lives. To secure the future of our profession, we should inspire the best men and the best women to join us by setting an example they can follow with enthusiasm and pride. Now, mentorship is one key to success, but it's no longer enough. Even the best aspects of our traditional apprenticeship model can't keep up with the exploding knowledge base and technological complexity of neurosurgery. Only 20 years ago, I trained to localize a brain tumor using a pencil, a ruler, and a printed scan. Today, I use a three-dimensional computer navigation system. In a few months, I'll begin using a 3 Tesla, 10-ton intraoperative MRI. 20 years ago, pediatric neurosurgery was still an emerging subspecialty. Today, my younger colleagues subspecialize in pediatric skull base or neuroendoscopy or spine. Neurosurgical education, by comparison, has fallen dangerously behind. Incredibly, until 3 years ago, US neurosurgery had no universal national curriculum. Until 2 years ago, we had no systematic method of measuring clinically relevant educational outcomes. Simply exposing people to a decent learning environment for 7 years simply will no longer guarantee success, safety, and quality. Without using surgical navigation, one operation is at risk. But without modern, effective, and outcomes-driven education, thousands of operations may be at risk every time we train a new neurosurgeon. Also at risk are our reputation, our ability to communicate, and our credibility in every operating room, classroom, and hospital boardroom in the country. As the philosopher Immanuel Kant said, it's through good education that all the good in the world arises. Now, Kant didn't just mean that education is good because it preserves our current state of knowledge. He meant that good education gradually creates new knowledge and engenders progress. Former President Derek Bok was a little more blunt. If you think education is expensive, he said, try ignorance. Facing these challenges, neurosurgery has moved from an era of apprenticeship to an era of intentional education. We've emerged as a leader among the 24 major medical and surgical specialties in advancing real and effective outcomes-based education reform. Current efforts include 3 major components: a validated national curriculum, robust educational goals, and shared national resources. Each of these 3 components is aimed at focusing, enhancing, and empowering, but never replacing the personal mentorship of every trainee. So, the initial effort involved creating a validated national curriculum for all of neurosurgery. In 2012, US residency directors and the Society of Neurological Surgeons did just that. Conceived by our honored guest and my own faculty mentor for the last 15 years, Dr. Kim Burchell, this matrix curriculum covers the technical aspects of neurosurgery as well as general competencies like leadership, communications, or safety. An effective curriculum focuses residents and faculty mentors on the core knowledge necessary to succeed. But we know that too many curricula are just lists that sit on a shelf gathering dust. To avoid this, Congress leaders have worked tirelessly in partnership with the SNS and the AANS to launch the Neurosurgery Portal Project. The portal will serve as a dynamic and interactive classroom that will define and teach the core of our specialty. Residents will access surgical videos, lectures, short quizzes, and also generate objective progress reports. When it launches in early 2016, the portal will be a powerful and innovative resource for online teaching. Now, Winston Churchill said, "I'm always ready to learn, though I don't always like being taught." I agree with that. Personal mentorship transforms the rote teaching, like the portal, into real learning. But mentorship is also chaotic and disorderly. In our hospitals, it's spread across teams not just of doctors, but also PAs, nurses, and technicians. Feedback is informal and sporadic. There's real risk that individual residents will randomly miss out on crucial guidance that they need for their ultimate independence, safety, and success. So this problem has spurred a major new direction in graduate medical education. In 2012, the ACGME, which oversees all US medical and surgical training, mandated that we use defined educational goals or milestones for every resident in every specialty. With little guidance and no precedents to follow, neurosurgery and 6 other specialties agreed to lead this second intentional education effort. In 2013, we published and implemented the neurosurgery milestones, covering 24 domains in 8 subspecialties and the general competencies. The milestones are objective, individual markers of progress and of competence, like placing a ventricular drain, obtaining informed consent, or completing a QI project. The milestones don't replace mentorship, but they do help mentors identify the problems and find the solutions. As a program director, I sit down with the residents, I look at their milestone data, and we talk about potential problems or deficits. The milestones provide transparency. They reflect consensus. They spark honest conversation. They identify a plan of action, and they track success. Residents who can do well do better. We also find the ones who really can't succeed, and we repurpose them sooner and more fairly. Most importantly, we help those with the potential for real success who are at risk of failure or mediocrity. In Oregon, we've made a real difference in the progress of multiple residents in just the first 2 years. The third intentional education effort is focused on providing shared national resources to support core learning. For example, skills training, testing, and simulation are critical to ensure basic competency at the beginning of residency. But they're also complex, time-consuming, and expensive. To assist training programs in using these tools, the SNS partnered with the Congress to initiate a national system of boot camp courses for every new resident in neurosurgery in the country. The boot camps introduce key surgical and procedural skills, like closing the dura or placing a lumbar drain. They use simple, inexpensive, model-based simulators with intensive faculty mentorship. Using mentored simulation, errors become sources of knowledge and experience rather than risk or injury. Both the faculty and the residents concentrate on learning and develop trust. During one of the first boot camps, a senior faculty member was watching a new intern use the perforator drill to make a simulated burr hole. The drill plunged badly. When I was a resident, he said, that would have been a patient, and that's true. The boot camps improve knowledge and skills, and they enhance safety. But they also enrich the professional fabric of neurosurgery by contributing to a web of common experience that binds us together throughout our careers. The interview trail, the boot camps, and now the junior resident courses, the Woods Hole Neuroscience course, the written and oral board examinations, and participation in our professional organizations. The best part of the boot camp, said one resident, was the camaraderie between the interns and the faculty. Faculty members from around the country line up to serve at the boot camps. Why? Because just a 2-day break from our hectic clinical services, concentrating full-time on mentorship, is precious, not just for the residents, but for us. The Congress is proud to partner closely with our colleagues in the SNS, the ACGME, the ABNS, and the AANS to enhance the progress of education in our specialty. To succeed with a challenging economy, an avalanche of regulations, all of our organizations have to work more closely together than ever, and we are. Now we know, as I said a minute ago, that great education empowers, focuses, and enriches, but never replaces personal mentorship. Education assures us a base of systematic knowledge. It communicates the protege's strengths and weaknesses to the mentor. It provides the right setting and circumstance for successful mentorship to take place. In turn, mentors motivate students to learn, teach them resilience, and inspire a passion for success. Since our foundation, the Congress has provided a place for innovative education in a welcoming community of colleagues and mentors. During World War II, dozens of young neurosurgeons with little formal preparation, trained in the crucible of wartime hospitals, returned home. They were excluded from established neurosurgical societies. They lacked acceptance, education, and mentorship. Banding together in a new society, they mentored one another. That society today is your Congress of Neurological Surgeons. And we're very proud of this history of inclusiveness and its impact on the vitality of our profession. We're now at another watershed moment. Last year, the ACGME reached a landmark agreement to create for the first time a single system of postgraduate medical and surgical training in the US. By the end of the decade, there won't any longer be separate medical and osteopathic residencies, but rather a single system of ACGME-accredited residencies for all qualified trainees from either allopathic or osteopathic medical schools. Every residency program must now meet ACGME criteria for excellence. Not all of the osteopathic programs will make it, but the ones that do will meet the highest standards with shared osteopathic and allopathic faculty. The Congress will again follow the principles of mentorship and inclusiveness that marked our founding in the aftermath of the Second World War. Any resident in an ACGME-accredited program, MD or DO, is automatically a member of our society. We also welcome accredited DO neurosurgeons who will contribute to our educational mission and advance the high practice standards of our members. Many osteopathic leaders are here today, and I welcome you and your colleagues to full, active membership in our shared community, the Congress of Neurological Surgeons. Welcoming these colleagues to the Congress is about putting our patients who need neurosurgical care first, and about making sure a highly qualified neurosurgeon is at the bedside of every American suffering from a stroke, trauma, or spinal cord compression. All future neurosurgeons will determine the direction and the value of our specialty, and today they need us. We must never surrender and never delegate our most important duty as neurosurgeons, to mentor those around us. Everyone wants to be mentored, but there's no detailed playbook for mentorship. And that's because mentorship is about the protege, their hopes, their dreams, their specific needs. Mentorship is its own reward. Most importantly, mentorship requires a profound faith that our most important task in work, in family, in life is to help those who come after us achieve a greater success and greater accomplishment than our own. Everything else flows from that belief. So I encourage you, take the time to host a high school student who wants to shadow you in clinic. Someday, they might join and enrich our profession. Accept leadership in your operating room, committee room, or boardroom. Your presence will promote the values and ideals of our specialty. Volunteer for the Congress or our other professional organizations. Your work will ensure the health of our profession and help us determine our own future by leading rather than following other specialties. In short, do what neurosurgeons do best. Take responsibility and make a greater impact than anyone could fairly expect of us. Hippocratic tradition tells us, above all else, to put the patient first and to selflessly share our skill and knowledge with the next generation of healers. Since the foundation of medicine, mentorship has been our duty. So thank you for everything you do to fulfill this Hippocratic ideal. Thank you for encouraging a student to pursue a life in neurosurgery. Thank you for coming to New Orleans to share your experiences and your skill with your fellow neurosurgeons. For teaching a nurse how to scrub a craniotomy, or for helping a husband cope with his wife's illness. Thank you for waking up in the night, for leaving the family dinner early, and for your sacrifice to be there at the bedside of every patient who needs you. Thank you, and God bless you.